Okay then, so it's time to take a look at Isengard, so I'll set up the battle and then we'll go through their unit composition. Okay then, the enemy is set up, and now to go through the unit composition of Isengard. And Isengard have got a lot of pretty damn good tools at their disposal to go toe-to-toe with pretty much any faction in the game. We'll start off with their low tier units. The Dunland Clansmen are basically the equivalent of Orc Band, but they're actually, they're slightly better than Orc Band, really. In fact, they're noticeably better than Orc Band. They are a little bit more expensive, and chances are you won't really be using a great deal of these guys as Isengard because there's more of a focus on your army being more balanced rather than it having a lot of cannon fodder in it like the other Orc factions, which is something they have that is unique over the other factions of Orcs. They have more of a focus on quality throughout their army rather than just a couple of units. There is, though, perhaps a little bit of a gap when it comes to their composite bows. They only have Snaga archers and uruk-hai archers. Now the Snaga archers are crap, really. You're not really going to be using these at all in online. The uruk-hai archers are okay, and they do give you the ability to counteract the problem that the dwarves had, where they will always really be forced onto the attack by enemy skirmishers. These guys will prevent that somewhat, but you will have to accept the fact that your archers are not as good as anyone else's, really. You do have the ability to deploy javelin units, but again, they're Snaga, so you need to be careful with them because they are going to be hacked to pieces if they're engaged in melee. But the one area of their army where their skirmishers are very good are these guys, but we'll get to them a bit later. As for their basic infantry, they have some shock infantry and the Uruk Reavers. They're not brilliant, to be honest, as shock infantry. It's nice to have them as an option, but again, they're really not fantastic. However, the center of your army is likely to be a mix of the uruk-hai infantry. They're kind of expensive, but they are very numerous, and it takes a while before their price goes up. So if I go, you get 3 units, which actually isn't brilliant. I thought you got 4, but they are pretty good because you get a lot of them in a unit, and they're very well armored. They've got good defense, and you will be able to pad them out with these guys, which have got kind of similar stats. Well, actually, their stats are like slightly worse. But they have less in their unit, but they are cheaper, and they are pretty decent infantry, the Dunland veterans. They're pretty good at being cannon fodder, honestly. In high money games, the problem you will often have is none of your units really, you want to use them as cannon fodder. But these guys, you can send them into the army first, and unlike something like a low tier clansman unit, these guys will actually not be dreadful when they get into melee. Then there will be the general unit. The Guards of Orthanc are a spear unit, very similar in many ways to the Royal Guard, so they have basically all the drawbacks of being a spear unit. They do have excellent armor though. You can't upgrade their armor at all because it's already at the maximum, similar to the Guards of Khazad-dûm. However, they can form Skiltron and not Shield Wall, unlike the Royal Guard, which I guess it's a matter of personal preference. The Skiltron is good in a siege, but it's not really useful at all in a field battle, whereas Shield Wall, if you get your line set up well, can be useful in a field battle. Also, if it comes down to it, if Cav are charging into you over and over again on a field battle, I suppose putting them into Skiltron is a good way to keep your general alive. You could have more Guards of Orthanc, but they're a bit too expensive for that, I think. Well, actually, they're not terribly expensive compared to some of the other units in the roster. But their cavalry is not good. As I'm sure you've noticed, they only get wargs, which means they're very vulnerable when it comes to moving around. They're not as slow as the dwarves, but these wargs, they're just too expensive for being too terrible, honestly. There are, however, 3 units which make Isengard a very attractive faction to play, in my opinion, and they are the crossbows, the pikemen, and the berserkers. Now, the crossbows should be obvious. They form the same function as pretty much the runic crossbows and the dwarven crossbows. You'll be able to zone out Cav pretty easily with these because they will cut Cav to pieces if they stay too long in their firing arc. They're pretty well armored as well, which means they can survive for quite a long time. I don't know whether these guys or the dwarven crossbows are the best. I would assume the dwarven ones, because in melee the dwarven ones are pretty darn good. But you're going to see crossbows when you're facing Isengard pretty much all the time, because they're a very, very good unit. Then we have the pikemen. In terms of having a lot of decent pipeline, which is very thick, the uruk-hai pikemen have a claim to being one of the best in the game. Because they are cheaper than the Gondor pike, which means you're going to get more value for money out of them. They're not cheaper than the Vault Wardens, however, but there are more of them in a unit. So I don't know. They're very similar to the Vault Wardens in many ways, I would say. So it really does depend. I think the Vault Wardens possibly are slightly better than these guys, but because there are more of them, you can afford to lose more of them. And then finally we have really the standout unit of Isengard, which are the Berserkers. They're pretty much Trolls light in the way that they function. They don't have a lot of unit models, so they are very vulnerable to being targeted by your opponent's archers, and they are easily the most damaging unit in your roster, so they're going to attract a lot of attention in the same way Trolls do. But they are extremely damaging, and they can cut enemy lines very badly. But I think the main problem these guys have is that they can be targeted very easily. And at the end of the day, you can surround them as well, which means you need to be careful. They're very much like Trolls, but kind of more vulnerable, but they're also more versatile than Trolls. With Trolls, the only thing you can really do is charge them into the enemy line and hope to shatter it, whereas these Berserkers can be used as regular infantry as well. They're basically shock infantry, only shock infantry on steroids. Anyway, we should now get to building our army. Of course, my general is going to be in a Guards of Orthanc unit. We could have 2. We'll see. Actually, I think we will have 2. Just to get we'll have 3 Berserkers. Very important to have these guys up and ready. And then we'll have, I think, again, we need 5 pikes. Just like as the dwarves. The uruk-hai pikes are very similar to them. Then we're going to need, I think, 4 crossbows again. Should we have 5? You know what, let's have 5 crossbows. And then I think we'll have just all uruk-hai infantry, because the Dunland veterans and the uruk-hai infantry are kind of interchangeable. Like, these guys are like a sort of value version of the uruk-hai infantry. They have less in their unit, and we don't really need cannon fodder as such. But when you're facing Isengard, chances are you're going to see veterans in their army, because they're a very good unit for their price point, whereas everything below them is kind of not. So we'll have lots of these. So we've got, you know, a very organised army, it seems. We've got 5 units of infantry, 5 crossbows, 5 pikes, then 2 Guards of Orthanc, and 3 Berserkers. So the most important thing, I think, would be to upgrade our Berserkers, honestly. I think we'll just put all of our upgrades on our Berserkers, because these guys are a real match winner. I'm going to be able to afford to upgrade them quite a long way. It's going to be pretty nasty. We'll put 3 chevrons on them, and then we'll put a chevron on each of the crossbows. Hopefully we'll do some more damage with them. And we'll upgrade their weapons. If we have enough, we'll upgrade the armour of our pikes as well. Which I think we do. Oops. I do like Isengard as a faction. The only slight problem is they do have kind of a lack of manoeuvrability, I suppose. We'll upgrade our general unit as well, and that should be enough. But yes, manoeuvrability is Isengard's problem. But they do have a lot of numbers. They're kind of a happy middle ground in many ways, similar to Rune, only Rune more on the quality side of things than Isengard. Isengard have just got like a very balanced army. Yeah, the fog. Well, the enemy have got the forested side of the map, which is a bit of a shame, but right, we want to deploy between Eriador and Rohan. This line is likely to be extremely long, so I think once again we might want to have just 4. So we'll move these guys away for the moment. Right. So these guys are likely to do very well in the melee. Right, we're going to put another unit of pikes over here, just to sort of future-proof against Gondor's advance. Can they charge into the side? Well, not really anymore. That'll do. Right, in order to try and counter Rohan, we'll have a unit of guards of Orthanc. Do we want to put them into Skiltron? I don't know. I guess we will put them into Skiltron. We'll put them sort of there. And then I think we'll need at least 2 uruk-hai infantry on this flank. Actually, wait a second. We need to set up our crossbows first, don't we? Oops. Okay. There we go. Now then, we'll have these 2 units of uruk-hai infantry be our reserves that we can charge in case the line starts to undergo difficulties. We'll have a unit of uruk-hai infantry over here ready to stop a Gondor flank. In fact, I think we'll probably want 2 of them, won't we? We'll have 2. And we'll have 1 unit over here ready to deal with any Rohirrim. The Berserkers, we will put... I think Gondor with their Swan Knights will probably be the primary concern. So we'll put... Yeah, that's a good idea. We'll put another unit of uruk-hai infantry over here. And put all our Berserkers on this side. And then our general, of course, can go at the back behind the crossbows, just in standard formation. Is he in guard mode? He is in guard mode. You guys need to get into guard mode as well. I'm not sure being in Skiltron is really terribly useful though. It makes them too compact for my liking. They're just going to go round, aren't they? Well, we'll see how it goes. Wait a second. Well, they're in fire at will and they're not in skirmish mode, so that will work. Chances are Berserkers are going to be limited in the game you're playing to probably 3 Berserkers. Ooh, get a nice screenshot of the uruk-hai pikes. I'm going to make a little cut there, just so that we can get into the battle a bit more quickly. They're charging their Rohan spearmen in first, which isn't too surprising. In this sort of situation, though, honestly, my crossbows are probably not going to do super amazing, because I didn't really have a hill that I could use to my advantage. Well, I guess I did, but that would have put me over towards one faction in particular. I'll tell you what, you 2 actually can hold your fire. We'll save you for whenever Gondor decides to show up. You guys, though, can keep firing. What are you guys doing? We're getting a decent amount of kills. They seem to be coming in from the side, which is actually kind of wise of them. At least from the point of view of these soldiers over here, because they're not going to be charging directly into my pikes. Once again, they seem to be waiting and letting me shoot them, which is very odd. There's Eriador. They're going around to the other side, which is interesting, because it means they're not going to charge in through the centre. So I'm glad I got my Berserkers over this side. What are they doing, man? Crossbows use up their ammo pretty darn quickly, honestly. So we're getting some kills on the Rohirrim, but not a huge amount. But again, these guys are pretty well armoured, so they're not terrible in melee. They'll at least be difficult to kill in melee. Oh, friendly fire. Are they going to attack? It looks like Eriador are going to make the first move. Interesting. Attack the lumberman, actually. And you attack the Greenway guards. Put you guys in guard mode, actually, so you don't pursue. Right, they're going to go into the pikes. Looks like they're going to wrap into my pikes pretty nicely. This unit seems to be the only one that's going to be trying to avoid the pikes, so we'll move a unit of uruk-hai infantry to intercept. They'll easily best the hobbitry at arms. Already running low on crossbow ammo in some of my units. And they charge in. Oh dear. That's a lot of friendly fire. Target that Greenway guard as well. You charge into the Breland militia. Give the pikes a bit of a hand, because I friendly fired them. Very large units for Isengard. I mean, I am playing on the largest unit scaling, but... Right, that unit of militia is going to do very poorly against 2 units of infantry. A unit of axemen is not going to be able to beat the guards of Orthanc. They are trying to go around though, which I do commend them for. Gondor hasn't arrived yet. Right, are they seriously going to try and flank while my berserkers are right there? As a unit of Aerid Lancers, they might actually be a bit more of a challenge for my infantry. But the Yawling Militia are doing a very poor job at the moment. Greenway Guards, Yawling Militia, Breland Militia, Breland Militia. None of their really good units are in at the moment, so I don't need to commit my 2 reserve infantries. Ooh. You charge in over here, just make sure the line is secure, seeing as you're out of ammo. Gondor is slowly but surely making their way over. Gondor Militia, Swan Knights, Citadel Guard. They are a smaller army, but they have got some nasty units. Defeat is certain. Victory seems certain over here, which is good. The Yawling Militia is getting shredded. The Aerid Lancers will do a little bit better, but even so, they need more support. Yawling Swordsmen might well swing the fight a little. Right, you know what? Gonna have to move my general over, I think, just to be sure. Oh, my crossbows are now fully in the fight, which is good. The pikes at the front are holding terribly easily, to be honest. Right, you guys come over here, get ready to reinforce the line if need be. These guys aren't particularly good on the offensive, but I need to because they're bringing over more axemen. What are you guys doing? Attack the Aerid Lancers. Guards of Orthanc over here have taken some losses. Right, well, even though we're not brilliant on the attack with spears, it's still going to be better than the Yawling Axemen. We need to tie them up. We'll charge in. They've got an attack upgrade as well and a chevron. Should be more than a match for a lower unit like this. That's going to halt their advance on the flank. Victory seems certain for the Axeman. Now defeat seems certain for my guards of Orthanc. See, this is the problem with spears. Eventually the charge bonus should wear off for the Axeman, which it has already. And then my superior armor will come into play. Oh, here we are. Right. That unit of Gondor militia is going to be absolutely shredded by my berserkers. We need to get into these Swan Knights with our berserkers, I think. They are slowing my berserkers down with militia though. I'm not sure this is a calculated move by the AI. I don't really have enough faith in them that they actually know how to do that. Right. That's my general, which is a bit of a shame. My morale is going to suffer for that. Right. But my berserkers will be deployed on this flank now. These militia units are going to be shredded. This is a much closer fight than it really should be. Okay. Gonna have to surround. What about over here? Defeat is still a possibility for the arid lancers. This part of the line I'm not so sure about. There's a lot of Rohirrim units here and not all of them are terrible. Okay. We charge in a unit of infantry there. Right. Swan Knights. We need to target the Swan Knights with these berserkers. This unit is dealing with this unit of militia admirably. Got militia in the fight helping out my guards. Right, the Yawling Axemen do seem to finally be feeling the weight of it now. And they're routing, so may as well charge in my general-less guards of Orthanc and this unit of crossbows to wrap around and destroy Rohan. Swan Knights doing kind of a decent job at stopping my berserkers, but not many of them are dying, so they seem to want to be charging into my pikes, which is kind of a strange move. How much of their men have I killed? That many, right, okay. Right, Hobbitry at arms. The berserkers. Gonna stop them from reinforcing or flanking. Those are Swan Knights, so Gondor are coming over to this flank as well, but that's not really a terribly good idea because a lot of my decent units are over here. Got a lot of men. They probably should have gone to the other side where my line is slightly thinner, even though the berserkers are there. A lot of units routing. The Swan Knights are routing. Yeah, I've got this. Okay. Send in my infantry here. Routing units. We've still got some reserves. What are they? Rolling Axemen? Royal Guard? Okay, I'll tell you what, we'll send in a crossbow unit over here. And a crossbow unit there. So that's all my men committed now. They have... I don't know, I mean, I would have expected my guards of Orthanc to do a lot better than that, and that's kind of their fragility. Like, they have a lot of armor, they're very good against skirmishers, but in a melee against heavy infantry, spearmen just aren't as good. And while they're pretty good in a skilltron formation, like this unit have held against a lot of very good units like the Swan Knights and the Arid Lancers and the Yawling Swordsmen, when you try to use them to attack, they're just not very good. And that is a bit of a shame. Get into those Greenway Guards, will you? They seem to be committing all their forces now, which is not too surprising. These Berserkers need to get into the Citadel Guard. Finish them off. Yep, use all of my Berserker units to just mob them. May as well use this crossbow unit as well. We have lost a unit of infantry in its entirety, which was the one that we sent in over here. That's fine. These Swan Knights are not going to get very far against the pikes. These uruk-hai infantry should probably get into the Swan Knights as well. The envelopment is pretty much complete over here. They're not going to be able to get around my formation at this point. And over here, our berserkers are doing a great job at routing them off the field. The Citadel Guard will take a little bit longer than that, but uruk-hai infantry are spread out. It's a bit of a brawl in front of my pike line now. Battle ready Dunedain, that's the Eriador general. The Rohan general is in over here somewhere, where the Royal Guard is. They're somewhere around here. Rohan Spearmen, dismounted Dunedain, and Swan Knights. I guess the Rohan general is pulled out. Interesting. The Citadel Guard are pretty rapidly being swamped by my 3 Berserker units there. The Breland Militia. Victory is a distinct possibility for the Breland Militia. I guess they must be fighting a crossbow unit, which is like in amongst the pikemen. Interesting. One of the shittest militia units in the game is doing pretty well. Are the Swan Knights breaking? No, they're not. There's the dismounted Royal Guard. Get some infantry in there. Get some crossbows in there. Yeah, they seem to have figured out that this is the weak part of my line. Citadel Guard is routing. Okay, well let's crush this Breland militia. Lumbermen. This unit of pikes can move around to here. This unit can get out of Skiltron. Get into the Royal Guard. Actually, wait a second. You guys need to go over here. We'll flank around the Royal Guard. They're fellow spears, so they won't do too much damage to us. They seem to be doing well against my crossbows, but that's to be expected. Okay. Charge into the side of them. Battle ready Dunedain. They're not going to do too well against my my berserkers, to be honest. The Swan Knights, there's not enough of them anymore to make too much of an impression. The Breeder Militia, not making any inroads against my pikes. There's just too many in the unit, which is where the Isengard pikes really come into their own. Right, you can charge into the Swan Knights. The Royal Guard are shaken. They seem to be trying to retreat behind the Yawling Militia. Interesting. Okay, we'll get out of formation and charge into you then. Same with you. We'll break formation over here just so we can destroy the Axemen, which seems to be trying to flank. Over here, defeat seems certain for all those units. Right, so let's get into them. Berserkers, victory is a distinct possibility. They're slaughtering Breland Militia by the tens, I imagine. Are they even fighting anyone? Yes, they are. They're fighting Breland. Oh no, they're routing. They're all routing now. I think this is the end. And there goes the Rohirrim general. And that's the end. So let's have a look at the stats. Casualties inflicted. I imagine the crossbows did the best again. Skirmishers. Oh, actually no. The infantry did very well. The berserkers did okay. I deployed them later on though. Very even spread across the whole army, and that's really what Isengard is all about. The berserkers are really the only ones that are what you would call an outstanding unit. But the pikes are excellent value for money. The crossbows are, you know, effective in the same way that I mentioned with the dwarves and Rune, sorry. Isengard are a very good faction provided you just use them in a very conservative way, because obviously your lack of cav means you can't be too aggressive, otherwise enemy cav is going to be able to charge into you, get into your lines, disrupt your formations and just kill off your important units. You've got to be careful with enemy skirmishers and your berserkers as well. But yeah, aside from that, Isengard, I do like playing as Isengard. If I had one complaint, I would say that the guards of Orthanc aren't as good as maybe they should be, but then that's a similar complaint with the Royal Guard I have. So, yeah, Isengard, good faction, solid faction. It's possible to beat anyone with them, unlike some of the other Orc factions where you start off at a huge disadvantage. So, yeah, I like them. And next, I think we will go back to one of the kingdoms of men, and I think it will be Dale. We'll try out Dale next time.